I think.
Oh, am I muted? Am I muted?
That's it. Unmuted. Unmuted.
I just muted myself because I was drinking tea and I didn't want to have all the slurping noises.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Lovely to meet everybody.
And you?
So
Guys, can you hear what I'm saying or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm coming after you, Leon. You go.
Okay, so hi, my name's Leon. I'm a canine expert and I'm really looking forward to helping you all this evening. You all excited to be doing this?
Yeah.
It's the first time ever in the entire world we've done anything like this, ever.
Right.
So you're the first. So you'll go down in history with this one.
Exciting. Well, my name is Jax. I'm a psychotherapist. And what a lot of people don't realise when we're looking for change is actually the greatest predictor of success is the quality of the relationship. So, you know, as Naturo tells us, it's natural. I've got a little diagram here. It's natural for us to want to do caring to care for. Okay, so as pet parents, we're up here doing this. Yeah, can you all see this?
Yeah.
So we're all up here doing this. And our belief is that our furry friends are down here feeling this. However, sometimes we might be up here and the dog might not be down here.
Right.
Okay, so this is where we need help to tune into their dogginess. And that's why we desperately need the guidance and expertise of Leon.
Okay, so without sounding crazy, I communicate with dogs. Dogs are telepathic, believe it or not. It's proven because we have for the last 80 years looked at body language, how the ears are, how the tail is, but there's so much more to it than that. And I just want to give you an insight into how the dog's brain works and how we humanize certain things and we feel guilty for certain things when actually we don't need to. So I want you to leave after this session knowing your dog inside out, and you'll never look at them the same again.
Amazing. I'm going to ask Leon if you could go around, I think, and now ask everyone that will give you your chance to talk about the issue that I know we've already seen that came through on the competition, and then we will move into some live coaching after that.
Okay. So we've got Ina. Yeah. So what's your problem, Ina?
I have two Shih Tzus, female and a male. The male is fine, but the female is has issues when we leave the house. She's
Separation anxiety.
No,
My
not so
speciality.
much. Yeah, not so much because of the pandemic. I've been working from home, but even if we go out shopping, she's all over the place basically.
Okay.
Yeah, she's stressed out. Like if I put her out the back garden, they're not outdoor dogs, but if we go out for say 20 minutes and the weather's nice, I could leave her outside. She will sit at the door and she will just constantly bark, and then she's saliva on the mouth coming down.
The whole time that you're away?
The whole time that I'm away, and if she's in the house, she's constantly barking all the time, and she soils the floors, even though she's been out the back, done her business. She still does it. It's like.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 4 this year.
Okay, and are they little brother and sister?
No.
No? How old's your boy?
7.
7? And what are the names, sorry?
The boy is Beamer and the girl is Aria.
Oh, lovely names.
Lovely.
Really nice. Yeah. So are you guys all right listening in on this?
Yeah.
Georgia and Jonathan?
Yeah, all good.
I'm going to help Ina first. Right, so when you first left them in the house, how long ago was it and how did you do it?
Okay, so obviously a year and a half ago, we were both going to work, and we were out for about 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And we just used to feed them, let them out, do their business, make sure they had water. When we were leaving, we'd give them a treat and close the door and just go.
And you would be away for 10 hours?
Yeah, roughly around 10 hours. I know it is a lot. But
did they have
that's
access?
that's not happening now because I'm working from home. But No, they didn't have access to the back garden, but
Right.
the other guy is well used to it. Was like the male was well used to it, but it was just trying to get her area into the routine, and it just never happened for her.
And how long would you leave it for? Did you do it by time? Did you do like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
Yeah. We started off doing it by time.
So I'm going to let you into a little secret with that one, okay?
Yeah.
For the last 80 years, we've been told do 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, and 15 minutes. And the one question I ask people is, where did the dog learn to tell the time?
Yeah.
As humans, we learn to tell the time at school. So all I'm trying to say to you is, as a pet parent, for worrying's sake, it doesn't matter whether you leave them for 5 minutes or 2 hours. To a dog, it's the same amount of time because they have no concept of time.
Yeah.
So when we're leaving them for a few minutes, then going back in, and then leaving them for a bit longer, then going back in, it's actually quite cruel what we're doing. And we think we're helping. We're not, because what happens is you go out, the little girl starts getting all stressed and anxious, and she's licking lots and slavering, and that's complete stress. And then you're coming back in, then you're leaving again, then you're coming back in.
Yeah.
Do you see how it confuses the dog?
Absolutely.
And we're constantly told in books and on the internet that we do these in time slots, and you don't need to.
Okay.
So when you go out, do you leave them in the kitchen? Where are they in the house?
They have access to the kitchen, come dining, come sitting room. It's all open plan.
Okay. Is there anywhere smaller in the house that you have?
Apart from a bathroom, no.
Right. So one thing dogs really get stressed with is too much space. Okay. Yeah. As humans, we think to ourselves, well, I'm not putting them in that little room. It's tiny. But when dogs are scared, like bonfire night, for example, the first thing they would do if they were frightened, they would go into the smallest little hole that they could find, hide under a table or hide under a chair, hide behind the sofa. The smaller the space, the more secure they feel. So as humans, pet parents, we think the opposite because we humanize it and we think, oh God, there's no room for them in there. But actually, the smaller the space, the more secure they are.
It's interesting, Leon, because they did a study actually where they put people in great big houses and they found that people naturally gravitated to the smallest room in the house.
Yeah. It's so when you think about it, if you leave them and they've got all this space, I always try to relate it to a human form. So it's like a 5-year-old at school, and the head teacher says to the 5-year-old, I'm just popping out for lunch, and I'm going to take all the teachers with me, and I need you to make sure that nobody comes in or leaves. That's your responsibility. That pressure, as you can imagine, on the 5-year-old child, they'd have a meltdown. Yeah. And that's what it's like for dogs. Dogs do not like to have pressure put on their shoulders. They want to be led. Yeah. And regardless of what people think, dogs are group animals. They're family. They're not packs. Wolves are packs. Dogs live in groups in harmony. So you're the parent and they're the child. So although dogs are a different species, but what I'm saying is you need to look at your dogs as 3-year-old toddlers, because that is the mental age of a dog, okay? And even when your other one's 7 years old or 10 years old or 15 years old, they are still 3 mentally. So if you think about that and look at that, that's why you'll look at your dog very differently after today, because when you look at them, whatever you're doing, just think, is that what I do with a 3-year-old toddler? Now, if a 3-year-old toddler was wandering around the house and they had loads of space, they would be so scared and so stressed and so anxious. So actually, if you create a smaller space and even did some crate training.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I don't know who that was talking.
Angelica, I think we've just had Angelica join. Hello.
Oh,
I think she managed to... Oh, she's gone on mute.
Sorry, Ina. So if you could get a crate, and I'm not saying to lock them in the crate, but if you could get a crate and put a lovely bed in there for them and leave the crate door open in a smaller space, then they would feel more secure immediately.
I've tried the crate. I've left the crate in the evening times, left it open. Sometimes she'd go in, she'd pull out the mat that I had in there. So I did get her used to it. Like,
okay.
with it being opened and her going in and out when we were sitting there in the evenings.
Yeah.
And then when I did try, when we were going to walk, there was chaos. She was I put her in, but I didn't put him in.
Okay.
I put her in. I don't have an issue with him. He's brilliant. But I put her in, and I think that was what the issue was. I came home and like that saliving at the mouth. I put a drop of water in a bowl for her. That was all over the place.
Okay.
She was in an awful state. Like.
So how often do they socialise with other dogs?
Not really, because now that I have the two of them, and I bring them out for a walk, I have them on a harness, and if they see big dogs, especially, they go ballistic. Okay.
I'm going to pass you over to Jax because I want her to explain from a human point of view, because I'm all the dog. I'm the dog person. She's the human person. And just to explain about socialisation, Jack, and how
I used to bring Beamer to a dog park, and he was a little bit, the tail was down, he was a little bit, and then he'd come around and then the tail would be down again. I tried the two of them then in the dog park and they weren't happy.
So Jax, could you explain about children if they were homeschooled and they didn't socialise with other children, or humans didn't socialise with other humans?
Well, I think, Leon, everything that you're saying, and I know you've talked about this, is the idea of codependency. So codependency is kind of how you feel dictates how I feel, or how I feel dictates how you feel. So I think what I was hearing you say, Leon, is actually, if we keep checking, if our anxiety, we're putting the blanket in, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're coming
absolutely
back, we are inviting our pet, as pet parents, we're inviting our dogs to be anxious, because we're instead of, so I've got another one here. I thought you'd like this, Leon.
Yeah.
Secure, containing, and contained and safe.
Yes.
So the more we hold this, I'm in control, I'm secure, everything's fine, you're going to be fine, I don't need to check you, I don't need to change the world. There are these things that obviously Leon says that I can do the best. How we then, so we are the change we want to see in the dog. And I think what Leon is saying, and it's the same as parents and children, we need to be attuned. Okay, so when I'm saying about caring to cared for, in human terms, we get this, but what Leon is saying, and I know it holds true, because I've met Leon a few times now, and it has completely changed the way I am with my dogs. It's just, I'm more secure in the way I handle them, and I have seen a positive outcome. So I think it's about, my question to you would be, what changes do you think you might put in place, and see what Leon thinks?
I think I'll give Ina, sorry, I'm just conscious of time here. So I think let's, Ina, I'll give you another minute, and then I think we should move on to another person, if that's all right. Okay.
So I'm just going to quickly say, Ina, socialising your dogs is like sending a child to school. Sometimes children don't want to go to school, but we have to send them because they need socialisation skills. And I know for a fact, if you were to enrol your two dogs into a doggy daycare, even for just half a day, once a week, when you leave them, the separation anxiety would drop dramatically, because you are teaching them independent skills, and they need to be independent away from you, but they're not getting a chance to do that. So if you send them to a doggy school, you drop them off, you leave them there for the day, they're getting socialization skills, they're becoming independent, they're still going to love you, and they're going to love you even more when they see you when they come home. They're going to be crazy.
That's very interesting that you say that, because they go to the groomers regular, and
if
their anxiety, her anxiety is there when she's going in, but when she's coming out, not a bother.
Exactly. So what I would say to you quickly is enroll them to a daycare, a doggy daycare, ideally twice a week. Every dog should go to a daycare twice a week for half a day even. And you, honestly, it will change their lives, and it'll change your life, and you won't feel guilty leaving them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thanks a million.
You're welcome. Okay.
Great. Should we move on to Angelica next?
Where's Angelica? Here she is.
Hi guys. Hello. Hi. Sorry, I haven't got my video on. 'Cause I'm actually getting a manicure. I'm just multitasking, you know, dog mum life.
A
So I'm going to be
viewer.
honest with you. I know. So my dog's, yeah, he's great with socializing. He's really good with other dogs. He's a 9-month-old Cavapouchon, but he's an absolute nightmare overnight. And I feel like a sleep deprived mother in that I can't get him to not sleep in my bedroom. But he really disturbs me in my bedroom because he won't just like lie on the floor. He like moves around all night. He'll want to go outside onto my balcony. He goes outside. He starts barking at things outside. So he wakes me up.
Is this through the night?
And then all through the night, he's like barking at things that he sees. He's getting really scared of stuff. And
so
then
that's...
I've tried to get him into the living room, and he'll scratch at the door for hours.
What's
Also
name?
with the Alfie, he's a terror. I mean, he's lovely, but he's a terror at the moment. And I tried crate training. He just whines so much in the crate, and it just does my head in. And
how long did you try it for?
Barks when he's I've kind of keep giving up. So I've tried it for quite a few months on and off, and then he just never took to the crate. He's really, really clingy. He wants to be like, he basically wants to sleep on my head. Okay. That's his ideal. So I'm getting a very disturbed night's sleep because he's literally so clingy. He'll lie on top of me, etc. I don't know what to do because I've not slept since last October.
So Jack,
yes.
I'm coming to you because the equivalent of a child going in and out the back garden through the night and being up and down and all around. Explain.
Okay. I mean, I think with a child, obviously, sometimes it's about being a secure base and offering them a secure attachment. So I think, if we actually had to deal with it, it would just not, I don't know if this applies with dogs, Leon, but not talking to them, not making a fuss of them, just if they need to be put back in, they're put back in. And I guess not accepting the invitation from the child to get into something. But I would imagine, I don't know, again, Leon's the expert, but I think it just takes holding that boundary, and then they will become more secure because we're keeping that boundary in place.
It's consistency. That's what it is. It's routine, consistent, and there has to be boundaries. And at the minute, it's Angelica. There's no boundaries there because that's quite stressful for a dog to be going in and out of the bedroom and going outside and barking at things. There's no need for him to be going outside on a night time. That's why he's not settling. Yeah,
because I was worried that he wouldn't be able to. Well, no, because he was also a nightmare with potty training. So I've only just got him to stop weeing inside overnight. So that's partly why I leave my balcony door open, so he has the option to go out and relieve himself. Which he's 9 months.
So I'm going to give you a piece of advice. You will do that for the rest of your life. He will want to go out. He will want to go outside every single night for the rest of his entire life. I promise you, he will. You need to stop that. Once you've got the potty training done, give him a smaller room. And what I would suggest is, again, taking him to a daycare centre, tiring him out, because it's not fair to put things in place when we don't enrich their lives in another way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if he needs to be mentally stimulated, he needs to be mentally tired. So if he was to go to a daycare for a couple of days, then I would start trying to do the night training. Pop him in a comfortable room with a comfortable bed. Nothing bad's going to happen to him. And it is going to be hard and stressful, but you've got to remember you're doing it to be kind, because you're going to end up having a nervous breakdown, having to get up like that, not having slept.
Yeah.
That must be an absolute nightmare. And you've got that for the next 20 years.
And you can end up resenting your dog, even though we don't want to, because it's difficult.
he's lovely, but he's a little fluffy nightmare.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Angelica.
Thank you.
I've got a Cavapouche too, so I understand
You can relate.
the neediness very much. Shall we move on to Georgia? That's
Yeah, hi. Well, we've got an Alfie as well, so I know there's something in the name. But he's a Yorkshire Terrier. And he's 6, he'll be 7, won't he, in October, I think. But he's just really, really anxious in all sorts of situations. He gets really attached to Charlotte, and my wife is at home all day with him.
If we go out even for 2 seconds, put something in the bin outside, he goes crazy.
Yeah, he goes crazy. If we go to do the bins, he's howling at the front door and scratching to get out to be with us. And and you hate going out because you think, oh, how long is he going to be like that for while we're out? So,
and how old is he?
He's 6. He'll be 7 in October.
Okay. Jax?
No, I was just wondering. I was wondering whether you stop yourselves going out because you
probably
you kind of do it. Yeah, you kind of do it a little bit, or we try and make sure that.
My mum stays at home.
Kerry stays at home a lot.
Everybody's babysitting him in a way.
Yeah.
Leon.
Enabling that behaviour, basically. And I understand it because being a pet parent, you're constantly worried about them and stressing about them. And if they're crying, it's like, your children crying, you wouldn't just leave them. And it's difficult because they are a different species to us. And that's the thing, we humanize them and we put human emotions onto them. So I can tell without asking this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, but I know the answer. Does he follow you everywhere?
Yeah.
And does he have access to the whole house?
Yeah.
So a way to sort it quickly and kindly is, again, make sure, I know I keep going on about mental stimulation, but there's 3 things we look at with dogs: mental stimulation, the environment they're in, and their diet. Now, Naturo food, I would absolutely recommend wholeheartedly. As a nutritionist, it's complete meat. It's like 60% meat, 40% vegetables, all different mixtures. And it's true that if you have a child and they're on a bad diet, Jax will explain what that would do to a child and how their behaviour would be. And by just changing the food to something like Naturo would decrease anxiety. And this is for you as well, Ina. This would decrease anxiety by 50%. Okay, 50%. And people don't believe me when I say that, but if you swap the food onto something more appropriate for them, you will see a massive difference, because it's like chucking fuel onto the fire. Most dog foods have got lots of grains in them and cereals, carbohydrates. When you give a dog carbohydrates, it's separate to humans, because as humans, we get like a carb overload and we're a bit sluggish with pizza and pasta and bread. When you give a dog carbohydrates, it has the reverse effect and it turns into sugar immediately. So if you've got an anxious dog and you're chucking this fuel on the fire, it's what I would call nervous energy. You know, when you have a takeaway meal and then you eat it and then you're starving an hour later, it's that kind of, it's nervous energy, it's nervous calories.
I use the wet food on the dogs.
You use what, sorry?
I use Naturo wet food on the dogs. I've been using it for years.
So that tells me that your issue, Ina, is absolutely lack of mental stimulation. Get them into a daycare, honestly. And I'd like you to keep in touch with me afterwards, because it's going to change everybody's lives. Honestly, you're going to be so pleased. And back to you guys. I would suggest getting a stair gate, like a baby gate. So I do not like shutting doors on dogs. Don't ever shut a door on a dog. Because of a dog's brain, to a dog, if I close the door, you have just disappeared. You've just like evaporated into nowhere. They don't understand doors and blockages and things like that. So once you disappear, you've just gone on thin air, and it's frightening for them. And that's a mistake people make. They should always be able to see you and always be able to hear you. So by putting a stair gate up, when you're going from the living room to the kitchen, again, like a 3-year-old child, you wouldn't have the toddlers following you everywhere. If your toddler's in front of the television watching cartoons, do you think they would really care if you went upstairs and had a shower and made some dinner and they wouldn't even know you'd gone? And when the puppies, it's fine because they're following you everywhere and it's really cute. But as they get older, you've created separation anxiety. And, you know, now you feel guilty because it's horrible for them because they just want to be with you. But Jax will explain about codependency. It's not healthy, and there's a healthier way of doing it.
And what you're describing, Leon, is it's really about attachment styles. So as humans, we have lots of different ways we attach. So we've got secure attachment, ambivalent attachment, we've got avoidant, and we've got insecure attachment. So what I'm hearing Leon say is we can create an insecure attachment with our dog. So
yeah, absolutely,
all the time, and it's exactly the same with us, with our children. So the idea is that we offer them a secure base that they can come back to, not that they need to be with us.
Yeah.
And just making a point of, if you put a baby gate on the living room door, I'm not saying keep him in the living room day and night. I'm not saying that, but just start by doing little steps like putting the baby gate up and just closing it to go to the kitchen to get something and come back in. And when you come back in, don't make the mistake of saying, "See, I wasn't long. Hey, what are you worrying for?" And I know that's what we all do, because
I'm much too roughy-tufty for that, to be honest.
But the thing is, with dogs, they only understand tone. They understand one-word commands, and they understand tone. So me saying to them, "I'm just popping out for 5 minutes. I won't be long. Honestly, you'll be fine. I'll be back in a minute." Is no different to me saying, "Oh, well done making that noise. That's really good. I'm so pleased you're crying and scratching at the door. That's amazing." And it's no different. You're actually feeding into that anxiety.
Yes.
And it's the same with human beings. Apparently it's only 7% that it counts our words. It's all about tonality and how we deliver what we're saying. So that's interesting. Yeah.
And because you feel guilty, you're putting that, you kind of sounding guilty, you're putting that over. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I won't be long. Honestly, I'll be back in 10 minutes. I swear you won't even know I've gone." You're actually building up on that anxiety. Whereas the kindest way to do it is to open the baby gate, close it, go into the kitchen, make a cup of tea, come back in, sit down, and then show them attention. Don't do it when you're opening the gate and closing the gate, because you're actually feeding that anxiety as you're leaving. Does that make sense?
Makes sense,
Leon, would it be right to say that think of a baby gate as like a secure boundary that we're saying?
Yeah, because again, toddlers, you wouldn't have toddlers wandering around the house following you. If you went in the kitchen to make dinner with hot pans and cooking, you wouldn't have the toddlers sat by your feet. Yet we let the dogs come through, and then you nearly trip over them. The amount of times I've nearly broke my neck tripping over my dog, And it just, like I say, just please, all of you, if you can take anything from this, think of your dog as a 3-year-old toddler, because that is their mental age, and it'll always be that way. So it just makes you look at them differently. And be more understanding as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 3 other dogs.
Oh wow!
And Alfie is the only one really that behaves like that, isn't he? The others are quite secure, really. But it's
And am I right, Jax, with children? Am I right in saying this with children? Because again, people make the mistake of saying, "Oh, that's a certain breed-specific behaviour for a dog." Just like children, if you had 10 children with the same mum and dad, 9 of them all do one thing, and 1 of them has got separation anxiety. They're anxious, they're nervous, they're scared, they haven't got any confidence. They've all been brought up the same. But what I'm trying to say is, like children, dogs have their very own personality. It doesn't matter what breed they are. They're all individuals.
Exactly. It's that idea that we're all born with a certain temperament, aren't we? So different. None of us are ever the same thing with, we're all different with different people. So absolutely.
Especially if you have the same breed over and over. People are saying, we've had terriers for 15 years and we've never had this problem before. But that's because it's not about that. It's about taking that little fur baby and just,
It's like
I'm disappointed I can't see any dogs. I thought I was going to see dogs on laps. Where's your tiger? Yay! Is this Alfie?
That's Alfie, yeah.
Gorgeous. Who's this?
Gorgeous.
Harriet.
Hey!
What's she called?
Harriet.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Where's yours, Jonathan?
So we've actually got Jonathan and Emma are actually together. So we'll come on to them in a minute. Emma's just somewhere busy at the moment, but I think we'll hand over to Helen next to ask a question, if that's all right.
Hi, Helen.
Hello.
Hello?
You're on mute. I think you're on. Are you on mute, Helen?
Yeah, Helen, you need to unmute. There we are.
Sorry.
Hey.
Hi. Sorry, I
How are
joined a
you?
bit late, but I had trouble joining. So.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's
lovely
okay.
to see you.
There they are. There's one.
Ah,
Hey.
look at the little babies.
What they called?
There's Yogi, Bob, and Buddy.
Yogi, Bob and Buddy.
Oh,
Yeah.
you've got 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, chocolate that.
Yogi. Buddy.
Yogi Bear's there, and that's
Oh,
Buddy.
Brilliant.
gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Oh, it's nice having the dogs in, isn't it, Leon?
Yeah, it's lovely. So what's the problem, Helen? What's going on?
Well, I'm working at home at the moment, which is great because I love
Yep.
it. They love it. And this is my study, so they're with me during the day, which is great. This is only quite a recent thing. For the first, Buddy's new to me, but for the other two, for the first sort of 4 or 5 years of their life, I was working during the day in the office outside the home. And the eldest one, Yogi, who's just left to see what else there is to do, has a ripping anxiety.
Okay, could you just move your camera down a little bit, Helen, just so I can see you? That's better.
Yeah.
There we go.
He has a ripping. He'll rip toys, cushions, not anything like a sofa,
Okay.
and not normally his bed, not now as an adult, but it will be not normally the favourite toys, but a toy
Okay.
or cushions.
And has that just been going on since lockdown?
No, he doesn't do it when I'm at home.
Oh, he does it when...
But before I was working at home, he had a ripping thing.
And he stopped it, now you're at home working. Okay. So I sound like a broken record. But I'll let Jax explain about mental stimulation for children, for example. The difference between mentally stimulating a child and the difference in their behaviour. Like, you know, when Jax, when you go on holiday and you've got the fun club for the kids and they're good as gold for 2 weeks, they're like the best, dream child. And then they come home and we go back to normality, and I'll let you explain what happens.
I just want to say, Buddy, the youngest one, is a rescue. And
Okay.
he has dog proximity anxiety. So if I'm out and a dog gets, I don't know, 3 foot from him, he gets very, very fearful and anxious.
Okay.
It looks like anger and aggression, but it's not. It's totally fear.
Does he make a noise?
No.
So he's silent?
Yeah, he very, very rarely will he do a little yap, but that's like 1% of the time.
So when you say he gets anxious, when another dog comes up to him, what does he do?
He's jumping. He's getting better now because I've been having some training, but at its worst, it's lunging.
And is he making a noise when he lunges? No. Okay, so that's aggression, not fear. I was just trying to work out with fear aggression. The dog makes a noise and we get it the wrong way around. When they're barking and snarling and like air snapping, as I call it, and they're making this noise as if they're going to destroy the other dog, that's fear aggression.
He does snap.
But does he make a noise when he's doing it? Like, nah, 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 nah? That wasn't a very good impression.
Do that again.
So I can't do doggy daycare, and I can, when my husband's not home, I walk them separately because one of my middle one's very strong, so I can't safely walk all 3 on my own if I meet another dog. I can't with 2 strong dogs and somebody who's I need to give sole attention to. So during the winter, I can only walk either when I'm at home, 1 each at lunchtime, and then again in the evening with my husband.
Okay.
Doggy daycare would be just...
Yeah, it would, you're right. It'd be too much now. It'd be too much for now, not too much altogether. Okay. Just like children who are nervous going to school, what I would suggest is a dog walker who only takes maybe 1 or 2 other dogs at maximum. and he gets introduced to them very, very slowly, kindly, lovingly, and not forced upon them. Does that make sense? So if you find a dog walker and they had their own dog, for example, this would be a perfect case scenario. You meet them at the park, and although he's going to be frightened and terrified, if you do it in a kind, loving way, it won't be a negative experience. Okay? What we don't realize is dogs don't use their brains when they react to something. Okay? It's a chemical reaction in their stomach. So, you know, when somebody gives you bad news or something and you feel that horrible gut-wrenching feeling in your stomach, when your stomach sinks, that's how dogs react. They do not use the brain. They only have a positive reaction or a negative reaction, and it's a chemical reaction. So when he sees another dog, a chemical reaction tells him, I'm in danger or I'm in trouble, I need to escape.
So Leon, I think it with humans, and I think, again, what you're saying, it seems to apply to the dogs as well. You know, we all have a window of tolerance. Sorry, I've just drawn it. Can you see that? A window of tolerance. So for any of us, and I'm hearing Leon say that if we get pushed out of our window of tolerance, we can go into fight or flight, submit.
Yes.
Our different attachment styles, our temperament will also have something to do with how we respond. And Leon, I'm curious to know, can we be in danger, say when we've got 3 dogs, of treating them too much like a unit, say like twins or triplets, when we really need to be thinking about each individual dog?
Yeah.
Would that be right?
Yes, absolutely. So Helen, what happens when you've got other dogs and they get used to the other dogs? That's like a family unit, like Jax is saying, where you've got 3 children. So you've got 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, or 2 boys and a girl, whatever the mixture. They tolerate each other's behavior and they get used to each other's behavior. So that's why your dog's fine with the other 2 in the house. But as soon as he's out with the family unit, he starts to have a meltdown and starts the anxiety and the fear of the danger. And that's why he needs to be treated as an individual. And I completely understand why you're walking him separately, because they're all very strong. But this is why I think it's really important for you to, it doesn't even need to be a dog walker, maybe somebody, you know, a friend that's got another dog, where you can introduce him as a friend, and you meet on the park. There's no, you don't force them upon each other. You can walk at a distance, 10 foot away, and just get him used to the same dog, one dog, not lots of different dogs, because it would be too much for him. If you got him used to one dog, using lovely Naturo treats, and what I call is, a lot of people use scatter feeding, a lot of behaviourists. I have my own technique called drip feeding, okay? So, you know, I said there's a chemical reaction, positive and negative, yeah? The trick to do is, you meet somebody at the park, you let him see the dog, but you're 20 meters away, you need to be well away, and I just want you to treat him, just give him a treat and say, good boy, well done. Lots of praise, but you keep drip feeding that praise. So we're not bargaining with food. I'm not, you know, it's not that. What I'm doing is changing the dog's thought process. Subconsciously, you're changing his thought from negative to positive. So while you're drip feeding him and you're feeding him these treats and telling him how good he is, he's still looking at that other dog. And that's very important that he does, because it's while he's looking at the other dog, his brains will change its thought process, and that will become a positive experience. Does that make sense?
I've got a neighbour who's got a black lab and a poodle. Now, the poodle's deaf and blind.
Yeah.
She's not the best, but the lab, she's very happy for me to use them as socialisation. I mean,
the only thing is, I wouldn't use the black lab first, because the problem with black dogs is, especially for your dog with his anxiety and proxy and all of this stuff, they can't read facial expressions. So that's why a lot of black dogs get into trouble. It's not because they're horrible, it's just they can't read the facial expression of a black dog. So I definitely wouldn't start with a black dog.
Okay.
But that kind of dog, absolutely, in the future, but not a black dog for the start. That would be the worst move. Okay? I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you. What about Yogi's ripping when I go to work?
When you go to work, so again, the only reason dogs rip is because of lack of mental stimulation. It's like when puppies are chewing, people blame it on the teething. It's a myth. It's not when dogs are chewing, it's because the lack of mental stimulation.
Okay.
And he'd be fine going to a daycare because he's not scared of other dogs, is he? And again, he's an individual, so it's absolutely fine. We would humanise it by saying it wasn't fair taking one of them and not the other two, but it's about meeting each of their needs.
And we all need to play, don't we? We need to play. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Right, who have we got now? Jonathan.
We've got Jonathan and Emma combined, is what I've been told. So I'll hand over to Jonathan to dictate, I think, the problem, and Emma is listening.
Yeah, so Emma's in the audience, I suppose, as well. She just got caught up in IKEA. So she's sitting in the cafe at the moment. Yeah, a lot of what you've spoken about has already sort of been quite helpful. So our dog is Dixie. She's 4 years old. She's a rescue. So she originally came over from Romania in the last year. And in that time, it's understandable, she's had a lot of change. She's gone from what we believe to be sort of living on the streets of Bucharest to being sort of held in a shelter in Romania, then moved across, and then, you know, living with a foster family for a little bit before we took her on. So she's been through, you know, more change than a lot of people have seen. So yeah, in that time, we've sort of seen a lot of anxiety in a lot of different areas. She was originally quite fearful of hardwood floors. We found I think she'd stumbled once. Yeah. Which we've sort of tried to create the environment to be a bit more carpeted, put rugs down and things to kind of accommodate for her. We found, similar to sort of Ina and Georgia as well, when we leave, there's a lot of barking and whining. From what you've sort of said, I think we're going to try crate training, or, you know, putting her in a crate, giving her sort of that.
I know exactly how to resolve this one.
Quieter space. We've also looked at daycare as well as kind of an option for a bit more.
Have you got any advice first, Jax, before I go into my...
No, you go.
I feel bad. I'm doing all the talking.
No, it's good because actually it's great to see and get the crossovers, because there are a lot of crossovers, but they're all equally, as you're saying, things that don't transfer across.
Yeah, we humanize things. So Jonathan, this is a really, really simple one. Okay. Now, I didn't understand the severity of street dogs until I went to Thailand. And I was doing a neutering program. So we'd get the wild forest dogs and neuter them and put them back in the wild, because people were stealing the puppies, or they were doing all kinds of things to them. So they had to keep it low. So they would neuter them and put them back where they were. And I didn't understand why they were putting them back there if they were in danger. And since then, I learned a lesson. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've fixed over 10,000 dogs now, and I've worked with a lot of Romanian street dogs. The problem you've got is, which can be resolved, so don't stress. The problem is there's a difference. And in the UK, we don't understand that there's such a thing as a street dog and a domestic dog. They are two completely different kinds, okay? So we've been getting them from Romania, Greece, Cyprus, all over the place. And the problem is, especially in Romania, there are street dogs. They live in groups, and they've lived in groups for generations. They're not dogs that were domesticated and chucked out. These are dogs that have been born on the streets, and their ancestors, probably 3 generations of ancestors, have all been born on the streets. So if you look at it like that, what we're actually doing is bringing a dog over from Romania when it's used to being in the free, in the wild, because that's what they do. It's like it's closing the doors on a wild animal and expecting them not to have any anxiety. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you see the difference? So again, it's about enriching her life with things that she will undoubtedly be missing, which will be freedom of space and being with a big group of dogs, because she'd love that. That would take her back to her roots.
It's interesting you say that, because when we've taken her out before, she's very, I'd say, not nervous, but like cautious of other dogs. And that,
on the lead,
on lead and off lead,
yeah,
actually. So she will usually just sort of stand still, almost like a statue, sort of allowing the other dog, perhaps, it depends on the dog as well, I think, allowing the dog to maybe come close sometimes. Other times she'll try and sort of not flee, but sort of, you know, try and skip away, tail between her legs.
And that's lack of confidence, because she's gone from being with a group, you know, like wandering around on the streets in Romania in groups, like even if it's 3 or 4, sometimes it's like 9 or 10. To have that taken away, and now she sees individual dogs, especially when she's on the lead, because she won't even be used to being on a lead before she came to you. So I understand that on the lead, but even off the lead, she's lost her confidence, because she's gone from being in a group of dogs to being singular. And a singular dog in the wild would be terrified, because they are used to being in groups. So if you enrich her life by taking her to a daycare in a group, she will gain her confidence back up. And I can promise you, after 3-4 weeks even of taking her twice a week, you will see a massive difference, and she will start interacting with singular dogs.
Well, we took her, we've just started like a training school with her, and obviously we're still there as well, so it's
that's the thing, you need to be gone. drop and go. Even
then, when she's sort of around other dogs in that kind of environment, I did sort of see a little bit of a change in her afterwards.
A better
change,
she's just missing something that's natural to her. That's all it is. Is she on Naturo? What food is she on?
She's on Naturo.
Which one?
The chicken, the one just by your shoulder, Jax.
Oh, I was going to say, I think I've got one here. This one?
Yeah.
That one?
Yes, I believe that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
And has she been on that since you got her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant. She was on something else when she was with her foster family.
Okay.
Yeah, we
so the fact she's on this, I can tick food off immediately. Because I don't know if you heard me saying about carbohydrates with dogs, it creates nervous energy, all that kind of thing. So the food she's on is perfect. The environment she's in, as I've explained, she's gone from being free in the wild to being in a house. So the only way we can enrich her life is through mental stimulation and socialization, because that is the only thing that she's got missing in her life. And I promise you, 3-4 weeks in a daycare, in a group environment, or even with a group of dogs, like a group of, I think people are allowed to walk up to 7 dogs. It depends what area you live in. A group of 7 dogs, but I would encourage you to use a daycare where they're just off the lead, free to run around, and they're in a safe, controlled environment. She will absolutely thrive. I promise you, she will. I'm excited for her.
Yeah. Yeah, we found a nice one just down the road, so
brilliant.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Thank you so much, guys. We are drawing a bit to a close of the end of our session. I think before we leave, obviously the topic of separation anxiety is what has brought everyone here today. I'm going to hand over to Jax to, just discuss a few of the issues that have been raised, because I think one of the really important things of this campaign is talking about pet parents as well, and like your feelings and how this very much impacts the behavioral aspect of the dog. So I'll give Jax a couple of minutes to go through some final thoughts, and then we will say our goodbyes. And as I mentioned before, if you've liked the session, you've enjoyed it, please share on Instagram, on Twitter, we're at Naturo Pet Food, or send us an email to let us know what you think, because hopefully we could be rolling these out on a much larger scale in the future as well. Over to you, Jax.
Hi. And I just to tag on to what Leon was saying before I sort of go to that, I think we as human beings, again, there's a similarity, because when we enter, we can lack confidence in a new environment, and also we can enter a situation where it's like, how do I fit in around here? So even if our situation has been quite negative, that's been our normal, if that makes any sense. So I'm curious to know, do you just find, so I'm asking you collectively, I don't know how this is going to work on Zoom, do you find that this experience in COVID has changed your relationship with your pets as pet parents? Has it changed for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe a show of hands, actually. Could be a good way
show of hands. Can I ask you to say what's been different and how's it changed?
I think they've almost become more sort of dependent on us. Charlotte's not been at school that much. George has not been able to go to university, so we're studying at home The wife's at home all the time. The dogs have just got more used to us being around, so that when we go anywhere, it's more of a wrench, and we have more of a performance every time we leave.
I don't know what you guys think about this, but I think this period of time has really taught us how valuable and precious and profound our relationships with our dogs are and what they bring to us. So I think we kind of knew it anyway, but I wonder as well is if that kind of it highlights or makes us feel more guilty about the changes because they've given us so much. You know, as you say, the stresses of COVID, not being able to go to university, being at home, they've given us so much.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, and I think if people don't have the connection that you guys clearly do with your dogs, they kind of don't get it. They don't get the strength of that connection. And it's quite hard to talk sometimes about those feelings because they can really be difficult and really distressing to think, you know, this precious furry being that's supported me through this most terrible time, you know, I really need to give back. I really need to give back. So I think the positive taking forward is it has just highlighted or it's made something really explicit that we all knew, that dogs are amazing and they give us so much, but we kind of really have the evidence for that now. But I guess that the link is to detach with love. If we have to do a bit of detaching, that's one of the things they talk about, and detach with love. You know, the baby gate, this is loving. I'm sort of I'm offering you a secure base. I'm calm you. I need to be like this to help you and to change our mindset. But it's you know, thank you for that.
Amazing. Well, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Jack. So I was going to say, I think we have run out of time, but I hope you've all sort of taken something from those final words. Thank you so much to everyone for your time. As I said, as I mentioned, you know, share feedback. We'd love to hear from you, but thank you. And I hope that you've all sort of found this useful and and hope to resolve some of your issues.
It's been lovely speaking to everyone.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. If you need any more help, get in touch with me on my website. It's just leontowers.co.uk and I'll be able to help with Naturo. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.